everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 19 of Trigun, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited. The last episode, oh my gosh, Wolfwood returning. It was very cinematic. It was very symbolic. Like Vash had been all by his lonesome for who knows how long, and now him and Wolfwood are back. So it's like it felt like a big push before the final arc. Like our hero had been through a tragic event. We got some backstory on him, figured out that it's even more tragic, and then he was going through a rut, and then his best friendo came in and dug him out, and now they're back in action again. To like, it felt like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before they go face the Shredder in the original 1991 movie. It was great. So I'm excited for this last act. We've got 7 episodes left. Well, 6. We got 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. We have 8 episodes left. Crazy talk. 7 after this one. I do have some comments I want to talk about before we start, though, although I'm really excited. Lemony Nitsu 637 talked about how there are technically 3 guns in one of the previous episodes of Trigun. There's the pistol that Vash has, there is his arm that becomes a gun, and then there's the biological gun that his arm becomes. So I'm like, do we count that as a 3rd gun? I guess we can, so technically that's Trigun. Okay, I'm interested. I mean, the cartridge inside the pistol forges with his arm to become the gun, so I guess we can count it as a 2-for-1. But I thought that was really interesting. I liked it. K.A. noted that E.G. Mind's voice actor from way back, like in episode 15 and 16, the original VA for Vegeta. I was like, oh man, that's so crazy. I want to go back and listen now. And then Ray Day's voice actor is Akiya Otsuka, who we've seen quite a bit lately. We've seen him as Fukuchi from Bungo Stray Dogs, as well as Blackbeard in One Piece, Thorkel from Vinland Saga, All for One from My Hero Academia, and Dimple from Mob Psycho. I'm like, that voice actor plays all of those characters? What? And you can't really say that he's typecast, because some of those are villainous characters, but some are more anti-hero than anything. So I was like, that's kind of cool. So man, just knowing that Ray Day's voice actor got his start as this like blade-wielding gang member, and now he's like All for One. That's so freaking cool. I love that. And then Alex Cornejo noted that he liked that Vash and Rim's relationship was not romantic. And I agree. I like the idea. Rim seemed like a romantic love interest at first, but knowing now that she was more like a big sister, motherly, maternal figure to them, it makes a lot more sense. And I like that kind of mentor relationship better. I like it. It makes more room for Meryl and Wolfwood. Right? I like it. I like it a lot. Although, I guess some people would argue, they're like, oh, well, can Vash be with Meryl and Wolfwood because he's like hundreds of years old? I'm like, if Doctor Who can do it, so can this series. He ages at a certain point and then he just stops aging. He just stays stuck in this static position, right? We'll go with that. I definitely agree, and these are a little bit of Attack on Titan spoilers, that Knives and his agenda is a little bit similar to Eren Yeager's in Attack on Titan Season 4, in which Knives comes to this conclusion that to give my brother the paradise that he wants, like Eren has wanting to give the paradise or paradis to Mikasa and Armin, his best friends, that in order to do that, we should just get rid of anybody that would cause them harm, which means we'll just eradicate everybody else. So the fact that Knives and Eren have very similar goals and the way that they go about it, I'm like, well, there's that. Although Knives is definitely more erratic. Much more erratic than Eren. Eren, at least, I feel like with Eren, there is a sense of vulnerability there. And there is with Knives, too, but Knives is a much more homicidal than I think Eren is. Or is he? That's a good question, right? End of Attack on Titan spoilers. And then, I don't know what to do, because there was another comment that was basically giving away plot things for the series. They talked about how these were people, that the people on the planet are from the ship. And I was like, well, I was speculating about that, but now it's confirmed. And was saying that for the last 100 or so years, Knives has been trying to wipe them out. Which I guess you could have theorized that that was what was going on, but I had been speculating, and now I don't have to speculate anymore. So I felt a little bummed about it. And so I don't know. I don't have any moderators for OG Trigun. One of the moderators I have has watched Stampede and said they would moderate for Stampede, but I don't know if I feel comfortable answering comments from here on in, because I want to be surprised. I feel like with the last episode, I'm recording this before episode 18 premieres on Patreon, and I just have a bad feeling that one, people are going to start giving manga spoilers. Two, people are going to start comparing it to the manga, which I will eventually read, so I don't want to be spoiled about it. And that they're going to start giving away plot things, and I don't want to be spoiled. So, unfortunately, because I can't trust it, right? I just don't know what to do. And for my reaction purposes and for my mental health, I think it would be better if I just don't read comments from here on in for Trigun. If y'all have comments that you feel are very important for me to know, I would get a hold of a moderator on Patreon. I'm just not going to answer YouTube comments from here on in. I'm just going to be like, nope, bye. Because I just can't risk it, right? I'm at the point where I'm in the final act. I don't want to be spoiled on the series, so I'm not going to answer YouTube comments anymore for now. And if you're on Patreon and you want me to read your comment, please screen it through either Be Happy or Floor. There are moderators. Please screen it through them. And have someone check to make sure you're not spoiling me. And if it goes through a check process and it's good, I'll read it. But I can't, because I read that and was like, oh, well, if it's confirmed in a comment, there's no reason for me to talk about it anymore because you've answered my questions. So I'm like, ugh. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable right now answering comments for Trigun, sadly. Maybe if you have something that is like overarching in the series, save it for the last episode. When the last episode premieres, then feel free to post, and I would love to answer it then. But I'll probably just heart and move on for now because my mental health kind of just needs it. I just can't. And that's sad, but I was really, really sad about it, and I'm starting to get sad again, so I'm like, no. But that's neither here nor there. I'm ready, more in line, to watch this episode and see what happens now that Wolfwood and Vash are back in action. So, yay. Yay! So, real quick shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. I am super grateful for everybody for supporting me and my silly reactions and me talking about this series. I am loving Trigun, and that's another reason I don't want to be spoiled. I'm loving it too much, right? If I get spoiled, I lose interest. So that's kind of my deal. But I want to give a special shout out to the fellow patrons on the philanthropy tier who go above and beyond each month, who are amazing people, and I really, really am grateful for all of your support and kindness because I'm very humbled by it. So special shout out to Edgar, to Dana, to Alex Cornejo, to Kiri, to Be Happy, to Shimoyama, to Nameless Monster, to Argent, to Matthew Pelefnier, as well as Tyrone, Anime Annie, Eric, Sunspots, Legatus, Translucent Men, Anna, and Goob. Thank you all so very much. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I'm glad our boys are back in action, but I'm very curious. Now that our boys are back in action, like, are they on a quest to find knives? That seems to be like the thing you would do the most, right? So we'll just have to see, right? So let's not waste any more time and let's find out. We're going to start episode 19 of Trigun, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So this was a great back in action episode. I'm so glad that Meryl and Milly are back with Vash and Wolfwood. I'm so glad. And man, Milly being the smoothest wing woman I've ever seen. I was like, that's how you do it, girl. That's how you do it. But we'll talk about this episode. What? So the one guy that could basically was just a puppet is creepy as hell. And Legato sent him to go and draw Vash out of hiding and survey the situation. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff happening in this episode. I did not see the need to bring White Board Kun out, but I may instantly regret that. So we're going to talk through it. There's a typhoon coming. A literal, instead of hurricanes, we have typhoons. And instead of hurricane Jacqueline, it's typhoon Jacqueline. So Vash is his own natural walking natural disaster, as they say. But there's a lot going on in this episode, and it went by so quickly. I was like, man, we just dumped through it. But I feel like Wolfwood is trying to make Vash be like, are you really going to be able to do what you say you're going to be able to do, right? Wolfwood knows that Vash is pacifist, but Wolfwood's also like, yeah, how's that worked out for you? So Wolfwood seems very skeptical about it. I think Wolfwood admires that Vash is pacifistic in his ways, but he also realizes how freaking hard that is, right? Like Vash has to literally beg and scream for a man not to kill another man. And it works this time, but I don't think Wolfwood's wrong to say like that worked this time because the man on the other end that was holding the trigger was a nice man. He was pushed to that point, but he couldn't do it in the end. And Wolfwood's saying like, yeah, that's great that worked out this one time, but we are literally going towards a man that will not hesitate to pull the trigger because he does not agree with you about that. So I feel like Wolfwood is trying to brace Vash for the harsh reality that they're going to be going up against people that are not afraid to pull the trigger, and begging and screaming is not going to make them stop. So talk no jutsu is not going to work on Legato and Knives, I don't think. And I think Wolfwood is prepared for that. I don't know if the others are. I don't know if Vash is. And I feel like Meryl and Milly are going to become liabilities, and I'm afraid about that, especially with Legato, who doesn't seem to have any problem killing anyone. And Knives, as we know, wants to get rid of everyone so Vash can be by himself. So it's like, what do we do with this? But so we start the episode out with Meryl reminiscing about the very Neon Genesis moment that was firing into the moon. And I love that this woman's name is Karen. I don't know if this is a universal thing, probably not, but in America, we have two names that kind of get designated towards certain personality types. We have Chads and we have Karens. And Karen is like a female caricature of a woman that is constantly like complaining, constantly nagging about something. She's that woman that will be at a restaurant and be like, I need to speak with the manager. Like that's the name that's been given. It's been dubbed a Karen. And I don't know where it originated from, but if it originated from Trigun, that'd be freaking amazing. If Karen was the original naysayer, I was like, man, what if that was the case? Because it would have been like the late 90s. Would have been around that time. I do love that Karen says when you loaf in style. It's like, when you slack off, you do it profoundly. But I felt so bad for Meryl. Like Meryl has gone back to her work at the office for the insurance company. Everybody's hounding her, being like, well, you were there when the moon got a hole blown into it. What was it like? And it's like, remember when you were traumatized? What was that like? And, Meryl takes it all in stride. But I do like that the Karen woman's like, quit questioning her like that. And she's just sad. And that's when, and I like that the Karen woman, she says, the reason why you get all these crazy gigs is because you're putting yourself in danger. And she says, it's very unwomanly of you. And I was like, girl, I think Vash likes Meryl just the way that she is. So her and Milly end up getting assigned to go look after Vash. And I love how instantly happy she is. She's like so happy to be able to go find Vash again. She's like, Vash the Stampede has appeared in Little Jersey. And Milly's like, oh, aren't you glad, ma'am? And she's like, oh, well, yes, I'm glad, but not like that. And it's like, I love that little moment where she's like talking about what a jerk he is, and she's looking in the mirror and smiling. It's like, She is happy to see him, and I could not be happier for Meryl. I'm worried about her and Milly. I truly am, because at this point we've established that Vash, not only does Vash not want to hurt anyone, but he is literally a walking weapon that could ignite at any time, especially if Knives has control over it, or Legato does. That is something interesting, though. Obviously, as I've said before, I don't want answers yet. I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing theories out there, and we'll find out what's true and what's not. But I'm like, we know that Legato can communicate with Vash telepathically. But Legato is not Knives. So who is Legato? What is his relationship to Vash and Knives? Is he half human? Is he Knives' son? Is Legato Blue Summers Knives' son? He could be. I mean, who's to say Knives didn't like get with a lady and have a kid? Can they do that? They seem like they're pretty humanoid. I mean, it's been 100 years. Who's to say Legato isn't his kid? If that's like Vash's nephew, that would be insane. Like if Legato Blue Summers was his nephew. I don't know. I'm like, well, what do we do with that? I don't know what we do with that. That's interesting, though. I want to know who Legato is and why he can communicate with Vash. What's his story? But I'm pretty terrified to find out what it's gonna be, right? But they end up they're going after Vash in Little Jersey. I just love that we have New Oregon, Neo Colorado, Little Jersey. Like, we're going to Little Jersey. Come on, Millie. We gotta go find Vash's Stampede. With their horrible, like, fake Jersey accents. It's very interesting that we have a lot of, like, names for out west, like Little Oregon and Neo Colorado, and they don't seem that far apart from one another. It's kind of hilarious. I'm just like, Neo Oregon, there's just like a bunch of drag queens everywhere. And then sometimes girls need to risk their lives, Meryl. I like that. I like the idea that sometimes girls have to take risks and be bold, and that is Meryl to a T. I love it. So Hangfire. I like this called Hangfire. I really liked this farmer that, like, let Vash and Wolfwood hitchhike. I absolutely loved him as a little side character. He looked like a legit farmer. I actually have a neighbor that looks like this man, which is hilarious. And not only that, but all I can think about, usually farmer characters get a bad rap in series, whether it's anime or Western cartoons. They're like, I'm just the dumb old hick. Like, I think of the farmer in Dragon Ball Z that's like, get my gun. Like, you know, like Dragon Ball Z Abridged did with him, where he was just like instantly shooting Raditz like right off the bat. And what I like is that this guy is clearly like a farmer character, but he just picks him up, and I love his contributions of being like, shut up. Which I think that's what I would be doing if these two boobs were involved in any type of road trip, right? He's like, if you're alive, speak to me and I'll give you a lift. Man, I hope that the Discord starts sharing some fan art of Vash and them black Wranglers in the white shirt, because it's doing something. I was like, I'm here for the aesthetic. I am here for the aesthetic, y'all. That red trench coat is iconic, but this aesthetic, I'm not complaining about it. Not one bit. It has kind of like it has sort of a Luke Skywalker, like Return of the Jedi vibe to it. And I know it's not exactly the right color scheme, but it just has that like same like vibe of the character's more mature and we've like stripped a layer off, literally with Vash, right? God, the fact that the motorcycle breaks down and Vash gets onto Wolfwood for not fixing it properly. The thing about it is, Vash and Wolfwood, they morally have very different philosophies. Even though Wolfwood, I would argue, is a good person at heart, his philosophy about life and death and saving people is very different than Vash's. But personality-wise, they are two peas out of the same pod. They both are such cards. Their humor is the same. They're a menace together, and I love it. And basically asking, like, when you buy an old used bike, you're supposed to repair it. I like that. Vash sounds like such an old man in that moment, like, you young whippersnapper. And now that we know he's, like, over 100 years old, he's like, you young whippersnapper, when you get a bike, you're supposed to fix it. And Wolfwood's like, what are you telling me to do? Are you dissing my Angelina, too? I love that it's Angelina the second. Like, the first Angelina broke down, and this is the second one. Also, Angel, and he's a priest. It's hilarious. And then they both spill the water. I love when they're just like licking out of the canteen. And it gets to the farmer who's looking in the rearview mirror like, what a bunch of boobs. Why'd I agree to pick these two up? It's just like, I love he gets so annoyed with them. He's like, be quiet or I'll throw you off. He's like, I want to go to New Oregon. If you want to go to Kansas, go there by yourself. Seriously though, no offense to people living in Kansas, but Kansas is freaking boring. Like one of the most boring states in the U.S. It's like, do you want to just drive for miles and miles looking at flatland? Kansas is for you. That's basically my understanding of Kansas from the times I've been there. So then, yeah, Little Jersey. They go there where he was hit hard, and we basically review that Vash has been there before. We find out it's from the last episode where Vash made a mess of the place, but the locals are all like, well, look who showed up. And I love that Meryl is like, she's kind of reveling in the fact. She's like, yes, I did spend some time with the walking act of God. And then they're like, really, he's the walking act of God? Because last time we saw him, he was crying over his donuts. And I love the little image that they made of him. It's so cute. Where it shows him like eating, the poster that they drew of him eating the donuts. Hilarious. He's in like his little suit that he's in now. This is the legendary gunman. And Meryl's like, did you get your information? She's like, it was all over the satellite. He's headed for New Oregon. Okay. So there's a satellite tracking him? Wow. Like, when did this happen? When did they get a satellite tracking Vash? What is going on? I like that in the background. There's some funny background characters in this episode. The man that showed them the poster of the donut is just standing back there looking at it, which is kind of weird. There's a lot of little weird moments with this. And so then, it's like we hard cut from them, like, going after Vash and finding out he's headed to New Oregon. And then we cut to this, like, shady underground meeting where it's like the day before yesterday, most of the Polo family went out of town, leaving no one but the fourth son, Slater. You know what I got from this episode? I got John Wick vibes. I got John Wick vibes with the dad whose daughter dies and he goes after, like, Slater reminds me a lot of Theo Greyjoy's, oh God, what's his name? The actor that plays, he's like the mafia man's son in John Wick, and he's the one that John Wick goes after in the first film. I was getting those vibes with him. He kind of has like a pitiful nature to him, and he's kind of like pathetic, but he kills someone close to our character here, the dad, and he decides to go after Slater. On top of that, the shuttle that goes to New Oregon is passing through. It maybe should have been a sign that this old man was like a robot or a puppet because his eyes are red and he looks kind of wooden, but I mean, at this point, what I love about this series is that it has this Western vibe to it, and it has this, like, it does this really cool mix of Western dystopian and sci-fi, but you wouldn't, when you start this series, you wouldn't think that. And as the series goes on, there's more mech introduced and more, like, kind of, like, supernatural phenomena. It gets to be like, yeah, this is literally, it's like a sci-fi Western. And I'm kind of all about it. I grew up watching Westerns with my dad, so I was like, I kind of appreciate the aesthetic. The Polo family cannot be allowed to run amok. I was getting the Polo and the Freeze family confused. It's basically like the Hatfield McCoys. The entire time they're having this feud, I kept thinking that the dad here was from the Polo family and Slater was from the Free. And what it was actually the reverse, that Slater was from the Polo family. There's just a lot of crazy characters. Like the one guy that has the glasses. I'm like, is he anybody special? Is he Knives in disguise? Is he Legato in disguise? What's going on? We'll have Mr. Lerald with us this time after all. So Mr. Lerald is the guy with the black hat that's actually the puppet, right? And then they're talking about typhoons. And then we see Vash on the loudspeaker talking about the dangers of typhoons and that you should get out. And then he's like, don't you know what a typhoon is? And Wolfwood's like, it's a beauty who levels entire cities. That's so interesting because Vash calls a typhoon a beauty, and that gets Wolfwood's attention. But Vash, not being a human, but being an alien himself, finds beauty in all of nature. Whether it's, you know, a spider, whether it's the fly, whether it's the apple or the tree, he finds there to be like a spiritual beauty in everything. So even this walking disaster, he's like, it's a beauty that levels cities. Like it's this big contradiction, right? I want the pasta that they're having because either the pasta they're having has a lot of, it's either like red noodles, maybe pesto, red pepper, or that thing is drenched in marinara, and I love marinara, so I want the whole pasta. I want all of it. Every last bit of it. I love that they both just keep, like, slurping up the pasta and getting on their plate. Again, if you look at the background characters in this episode, they're all doing, like, weird little things in the background, like putting up signs and stuff. And he says, and Wolfwood's like, let's go while we're in one piece. I feel like Wolfwood's not letting on everything that he knows. I feel like Wolfwood is getting closer. I think Wolfwood knows he's getting closer to Legato, but he doesn't want to tell Vash. And so he's like, let's just leave. Let's just not stay here. Let's go somewhere else. And of course, Vash's bleeding heart. He's like, He's like, why do things like that happen? And Wolfwood's like, it's not anything new. Even the most peaceful folk will take up arms if family is killed. I feel like that in itself is a direct tie to Wolfwood's own experience. Like maybe he's put up arms because of something that happened to his family, and that's how he's in the situation that he is. Maybe. I feel like that could be the case. I feel like he's saying, look, like people can be peaceful, but everybody reaches a breaking point. And he's like, what is your breaking point, Vash? And I feel like Vash would like to say he doesn't have a breaking point, but then he's like, he just leaves. He ditches out on the dinner. And for a hot second, Wolfwood thinks he's turned into the cat. And he's like, now wait a minute. No, where'd he go? And I like the waiter's like, your check for $30? He's like, oh, put it on my tab. And he's like, no, there is no tab. I do like Vash walking away all like hunched up, and he has like the gun in his back pocket. Pointing at himself like that. Yep. It gives off a lot of Ash from Banana Fish vibes, which honestly, Banana Fish, even though the anime came after Trigun, the manga came from the 80s, so there's a very good chance that Vash's character was inspired by Ash, like character design wise. I feel like it could have been inspired a little bit by Ash, which is kind of cool. So then we go to Slater, who's just sitting there reading a magazine, reading a comic book. And he's like, what does it say here? He's like, don't come in without my say-so. I want to see Max Simon. And he's like, that old codger. He's like, go ahead. And he says, thanks a lot. And he's like, are you sure about this? And he's like, what choice do I have? Even my old man doesn't dare defy old Max. Okay, so the Polo family, we have Max Simon, who is this old man. The 10th New Oregon City Derby winner Max Simon, Xylese Polo. Okay, Max Simon, Xylese Poro, which I'm assuming is Polo. So Max Simon, the name is hyphenated, like that's his first name. It's just Max Simon Polo. Oh, okay. Nice. And he knows Vash he has history with Vash. He knows him from a while back. And is like, oh, it's you again. What do you know? It's been 10 years. I love the idea that Vash is like meeting all these people he knows along the way. And so he's going to use Max to try to get in with the Polo family and then stop the attempted assassination and just kind of infiltrate the situation. And then I love that Meryl and Milly in the train car, the lady that they're with, like, she's like asleep, which is probably a good thing because if she knew they were headed towards danger, she probably would have got off the next train stop. I love Milly's like pigtails. Those are super cute. And then of course, the bandits, the Polo family or the Freeze family, they instantly are on the sand steamer, taking it over. I love that Meryl stands her ground. I love that she's like paying attention when she's taken by the bandits. She's paying attention. She's seeing what all she can do. She's testing the waters. She's so bold. I freaking love Meryl in this. And then that's when we have the dad go off to find Slater, and we have Max meeting up with Vash. And he's like, where's your red coat? And he's like, oh, I got some holes in it. And he's like, you come to pick up Jacqueline's skirt, have you? I love the camaraderie, like the instant camaraderie that Max and Vash have. It's great. And he's like, what was that? And the sand steamer runs into the buildings, right? Runs in the middle of town. And then they keep the loudspeaker on. And that's when we see the old Laurald character. And then Wolfwood showing up just like under the woman's skirt. I mean, are we surprised? But he's just sitting there eating his ramen. Like, oh, it's a raid. I like that Wolfwood stays out of this and lets Vash go do his thing because Wolfwood's like, I feel like Wolfwood's like, okay, you want to be a pacifist, you want to be peacekeeper, fine, you go play that game, come back and tell me how it goes. Right? He's not enabling or pushing Vash to do whatever. He's just kind of sitting on the sidelines and seeing what will happen. And they're demanding the head of the Polo family. And if they're not met within 3 days, then we can't guarantee the son's safety. And Max is like, well, the head of the family is in Neo, Colorado. They're not going to get here in 3 days. So apparently that's really far away. And Vash is like, I guess I'm going to have to go save him. What I love about it is that Max is like, are you going in? And he goes, it's just my nature. I love that line. I love Vash being like, I just kind of dive in head first. Sorry, can't help it. Sorry, not sorry. And Wolfwood, I think, cares about Vash. And he's like, look, I know you like to charge into things guns a-blazing, but maybe don't. Maybe consider where you're at and then decide if you need to. But, So, I love this scene. It's kind of weird. It's such a weirdly shot scene with Meryl and Milly where Meryl kicks the guy in the balls. It's such a weird scene. Because, not that her kicking him in the balls, that was brilliant. But, and girl's got some legs. Meryl's got some legs on her. But as soon as it happens, the guy falls backwards, and then he aims his gun at the ground, and Milly's like, you bitch. Or he's like, you bitch. And then Milly kicks up the suitcase into the air, and then it like opens in midair. Like it just like stops and floats and goes boop, and then all the stuff falls out, defying the laws of physics. And then the gun like bounces like it's made of rubber over to her, and she uses her feet to fire it. Now, her using her feet to fire is not the most surprising thing, because my cousin actually has like really flexible toes. She can like pinch you with her toes. It's like pinching with fingers. So some people have that. But the gun bouncing and the suitcase opening midair, what? That doesn't make any sense. But because it's Milly and Meryl, I will forgive it. Mm-hmm. And Meryl's the one that fires with her feet. Girl is resourceful. Milly can kick a suitcase open. Meryl can fire a gun with her feet. It's great. And so then we go to the hostage situation, and there is Vash. And that's when Max says, are you still doing things this way? Max being like, are you still saving people without hurting anyone else? I love it. I love that Vash is so consistent and has that reputation. And Max is like, all right. And then he shoots the guns from their hands and uses it to intimidate them. I love that he just like has the gun behind him like this, firing it. And Max obviously respects Vash because of how good he is. And he's like, all right, they think you're a demon, so just scare them off. Just play the part. And that's exactly what happens. So the dad is constantly nervous around Slater and wanting to kill him. And the old man keeps like holding him back and waiting. And that's about the time that Vash shows up. I like that they think that they have advantage over him because they're like, well, there's only one way in, so we'll just fire our gun at him. And then they end up not doing that at all. The Slaughter song, though, the Slaughter song and Genocide song, do I want it as my ringtone? Do I? I kind of do. It's amazing. I'm just like, I like that Wolfwood's sitting there and watching like, oh, we're singing like this. Oh, okay. And then Meryl and Milly are like, what the hell? And let's begin the killing time. And then the one guy says it's just a bluff. I love Vash showing up in the darkness and then just showing up and being all ready to go. And then they're like, what a shame. We have a negotiations breakdown. And then the one guy fires the bazooka and Vash kicks it away. That was amazing. I loved that. And then he just charges in and knocks him out. But Laurald escapes. And that's when we have the dad who wants to kill Slater. And he's like, you wouldn't understand. And Vash is like, rah! And the thing about it is, I think Vash can relate to a lot of these characters because he's lost someone he really cared about. And it takes a lot for you to overlook revenge and forgive and move forward. And Vash is just trying to show people that it can be done. And this guy it's a test because he is so adamant about this man paying for the loss of his daughter. And he says, we're not like God. Not only are our powers limited, but we sometimes have to play the devil. I love that the focus is on Wolfwood when that line is said. Because you have Vash and Knives who seem like angels. They seem like they're larger than life. Like they could be deities themselves, right? Because everything seems to like they're so powerful. And then you have people like Wolfwood who's like, I am not all powerful. I have a limit. And so I may look like an angel, but sometimes I've got to play the devil. I feel like that's more Wolfwood's mentality of somebody has to get their hands dirty. Whereas Vash is like, I don't want to dirty my hands at all. I love it. I don't know how many cigarettes that Wolfwood smokes in this episode, but I feel like he smokes quite a few. And then he's like, how are you going to respond? And then he's like, my daughter was killed by this man. And it's a horrible death. It's awful. It's like she's related to the freeze, but she had nothing to do with it. And you can just tell Vash is like, damn it, tale as old as time. Song as old as rhyme. what do we do about this man that's so adamant for revenge? And he's like, after I've killed him, you can just take me in. I don't care anymore. Now, the one guy, Slater, he doesn't apologize, right? He doesn't apologize for killing the girl, which I think makes the dad even more mad. But he does beg for his life. And while I would have liked him to apologize for her death, I do think it's relevant that he begs for his life and to live. Because that seems to be like what Vash kind of comes to the conclusion with. He's like, these people deserve life. Like, it's not our job to determine who dies and who lives. We should not be taking lives from people because we don't have the right to, right? And this guy, despite not apologizing, he wants to live, and Vash is like, it's the case of the spider and the fly, right? It's the case of the spider and the butterfly. He's like, do I let the spider eat the butterfly, or what do I do? Or do I try to protect both? And Vash, true to his nature, he begs him. He gets punched so many times by the guy, and he just sits there and begs him. And especially when the man starts like begging for his father, he starts calling out his dad's name. You can tell Vash is just like, he's no different. Because the old man says, well, my daughter would have been screaming the same thing. And Vash is like, this guy's no different than your daughter. Like, we don't know the circumstance. We don't know what happened. But it's clear that he's human. And he made a mistake. And he should have apologized. But do you take his life because of that? Like, do you put that sin on yourself and that weight to take life from a man? It's such a good episode. It's so good. I love that part. And then the old man, he can't, like, Vash just sits there and begs him not to shoot. And you see Wolfwood just sitting there smoking that cigarette like, okay, what's he going to do? Is it going to work? And then the dad says, Eileen, I can't shoot him. I want to avenge you, so why can't I shoot? Because it's like taking the high road. It's not easy. It's not fair. I know a lot of people would argue, be like, well, it's not fair that Slater gets to kill the daughter and he doesn't get killed. No, it's not. It's not fair. But Vash is like, you don't need the sin of murder and death on you if you can avoid it. And the dad being like, it's so frustrating because I want to kill him so badly, but I can't. Man, and just Vash just stand there. And then Meryl and Milly. I like Meryl and Milly show up and they look over and Vash looks absolutely awful. Vash looks like hell and Meryl and Milly are like, all right, we're used to it. And then that's that. They get out of... It's interesting they have the satellite there. The plant is not fully functional, right? Interesting. And so, yeah, they're like, man, for the human typhoon being involved, it wasn't half bad. But the real typhoon is coming to town tomorrow. Interesting. Like, be very, very careful. And then that's when Wolfwood says, go easy on the good guy stuff, okay? Like, you're going to get yourself killed. He's like, luck and persistence won't work forever. He's like, you got lucky this time, but that's not always going to be the case, so don't get yourself killed. Ah, damn. And then he starts walking away with that damn cross, and poor Vash. That's when Meryl gives him the handkerchief. She's like, I'm so glad to see you! I'm so glad to see them together, too. That's so sweet. But yeah, Wolfwood's just like, the good guy routine. He's like, you've been relying on it this whole season, but it's going to come to a point where you're not going to be the nice guy anymore. And are you prepared for that? I just love Meryl giving him the handkerchief. And I love Milly's like, there they are, and I'm going to go over here and let them talk. I was like, good on you, Milly. Good girl. Yes. And then I like that they're just sitting there in silence. And Vash, like, holding the handkerchief to his cheek and her just sitting right beside him. I love it. I love it. So I love that shot so much. I'm going to take a picture of it. That shot's beautiful of them just side by side. I ship it. I ship it quite a lot. Mm-hmm. And it says, long time no see. Yeah. I wanted more. I wanted more of the two of them. Long time no see. I mean, it's cool that we just get that one moment and it's like, you know everything you need to know. You catch up. But I love that Vash doesn't just immediately shun them away. He's like, oh, hey, How's it going? But I wanted more, dang it. And we don't get it. Instead, we get Ferald, who, like, is next to this creepy man with the suitcase and the glasses. And then he opens it up, and it's just like a puppet, like a mannequin. Oh my God. I found you. I'll take everything into consideration and reach a conclusion. There is no doubt. Vash the Stampede is on the move. Mr. Legato. Oh my God! Yes! Okay. Mr. Legato, eh? Alright. Okay. Alright. Legato Blue Summers. I'm so curious. Curious indeed. What do we do? I'm very curious to know what's going to happen with Legato and Vash in the next episode. Because now we know that Legato is after Vash. Vash is probably... I don't think Vash is thinking about Legato. He's more worried about knives, but maybe Legato will have to step in and make him think of him. But yeah, this episode was great. And I'm really, really excited for episode 20 now. So I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I said I look forward to your comments down below. I don't know. I'm very, very worried about spoilers, so I don't know what to do about it, y'all. I'm so curious. But if you all are on Patreon in the Discord, we can totally talk in the Discord. That would be great. But I don't know if I'm going to read comments or not. I'm just going to play it safe for now, and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'm back very soon with more Trigun.